Hello and welcome to the program Aqua Farming. My name is Joshua Ishaye, regular host on the program. For those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, you're actually right on time because you are on the program which explores everything that is in the water. We here on the program we make sure we bring out the hidden potentials in the aqua business. In Nigeria, the government of the day is focusing great attention on strategies for food security. Notably, among these strategies is fish farming, which is increasingly becoming very popular as a major source of accelerated fish production. Today on Aqua Farming, we'll be looking at comparative analysis of African catfish. The report has it that fisheries development and a subsector projected a contribution of only 2.5% of national GDP in 2015. Research also has it that the supply of fish within the period was 671.48 metric tons demand. That was 2,600, leaving a deficit of 1.976 tons. Presently, a critical review of fisheries and aquaculture production and management in Nigeria and state is essential to follow improved agricultural management practices to ensure enhanced yield. Aquaculture is a major fish farming strategy which has become a very popular major source of accelerated fish production. Stay tuned and take a look.
Fish farming continue to make substantial contribution to Nigeria's animal protein requirement on a global scale. Fish, crustaceans and mollusks productions has increased from 3.9% of total production by weight in 1970 to 27.1% in the year 2000 and 32.4% in 2004 according to Food Agriculture Organization. Nigeria's contribution to these global figures remain largely insignificant and more need to be done to bridge the yawning gap. The greatest limitation of fish farming in Nigeria is the lack of suitable fish feed. Most feeds are farm-based and commercial fish feed have to be imported using the limited foreign exchange of the state. In Nigeria, the most cultured species are catfish. The African catfish, Clarias garapinus, is appreciated by consumers for the quality of its meat, and is mostly smoked and used in soups. It is recognized by its long dorsal and anal fins, which give it rather cell-like appearance. The catfish has a slender body, a flat bony head, and a broad terminal mouth with four pairs of barbels. Its prominent barbels give it the image of cat-like whiskers. The fish is mostly cultured in 18 ponds. However, it can be cultured in other systems such as tanks and happers. In the wild and riverine system, the fish reproduces natural but considerable effort is required to induce spawning under cultural conditions. The African catfish is an excellent species for aquaculture, as it omnivorous, grows fast, and tolerates relatively poor water quality. A number of plants continue to be investigated for their potential in supplementing or even replacing meal. Lacuna has been identified to hold the potential to make contributions to fish nutrition, with the possibility to reduce the total dependence of fish farming on fish meal in several locations in Nigeria. Leucaena is a leguminous multipurpose tree and provides fuel wood. Green manure improves degraded lands and can be used as a cover crop. Leucaena leaf is known to contain about 22.7 crude protein and survives well on degraded soil, which are low in nutrients. It has bipinnate leaves, lanceolate leaflet, and has flat pods containing small seeds. The leaves and seeds contain the anti-nutritional factor. Mimosine is known to inhibit the growth of animals, especially non-ruminant. It is available in almost every geographical location in Nigeria and grows fast. Its leaves are a good source of protein and need to be examined in greater details and its sustainability for the African catfish. In Nigeria, imported fish mainly from Israel and Brazil is used in commercial production of catfish as the major source of protein. This has created a sustained dependence on these countries for the supply of fish meal. The high cost of fish meal makes commercial production of catfish capital intensive, as it accounts for between 30 and 60% of variable operating costs. This has motivated the search for local cheap alternative source of protein that aim to reduce production costs should hold the potential to supplement, replace, or partly replace the imported fish meal. Against this backdrop, this documentary is conducted to determine the optimal inclusion level of Leucaena leaf meal in formulated diets of Claris garipinus. This documentary is conducted at the Aquaculture Research Development of the Water Research Institute Council of Scientific Industrial Research. Now, let's look at source of ingredient and diet preparation. Fish meal, maize, wheat bran, and groundnut husk were obtained locally from the market, while Leucaena leaves were freshly plucked from their branches on the compound of Water Research Institute. The long leaf stalks were removed by ban. The Kenya leaf were soaked in water for 3 days and afterwards sun dried for another 3 days. All ingredients were ground into powdery form using a corn mill. The mill Kenya leaves were then sieved with a mosquito net to separate the fine powder from the remaining fiber. The proximate chemical composition of feed ingredients were estimated by the method described by the 1984 to determine crude protein content. 4 instantaneous diets containing different level of leucaena were prepared. The experimental diets with crude protein level of 30% were formulated using the trial and error method. The ingredients were then thoroughly mixed together by hand. Warm water was added to the premixed ingredients and homogenized to a dough-like paste. The dyes were then pasteurized using a 2 mm pallet press. The dyes were sun-dried for 4 days and stored in airtight containers throughout the experimental period. The experiments are carried out in rectangular concrete tanks with water volume maintained. 0.17-meter level, 16 concrete tanks were used. A total of 240 African catfish, Caras grappinus juveniles with an average weight of 40 to 18.0.51 grams were randomly allotted at the rate of 10 juveniles per tank into each of the 16 experimental concrete tanks, each tank having 2 other replicates. The fishes are allowed to acclimatize 14 days prior to the start of the experiment. Feeds were formulated from the Coccainia leucocephala leaves to test their efficacy on the growth performance of the catfish. The experimental diet varied with increasing levels of Leucaena leaf meal and 30 with decreasing level of fish meal. Most ingredients of standard catfish feed formulas can be substituted for, but whenever fish meal has been left out of catfish diets, poorer growth and food conservation have resulted. For this reason, feed are formulated with inclusion of varying quantities of fish meal, combined and Leucaena leaf meal. The emphasis in this intervention is to formulate protein diets that can substitute or reduce the quantities of expensive fish meal in formulated diet without compromising growth performance of the fish. Fish feeding culture. The fishes were fed twice daily between 8 to 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. at 2% body weight throughout the experiment. The ratio was adjusted every 2 weeks when new meal weights of fish for the various experimental units were determined. Leftover feed and feces in each tank was siphoned out each week. The water in the tank was also changed with preconditioned pipe-borne water every week. Data collection and analysis. Data on fish growth characteristics were recorded every 2 weeks. The weight of individual fish were determined with an electronic scale of model, and the standard length was determined with the measuring board. The experimental tank was inspected daily to remove dead fish. if any fish weight gain, feed conservation ratio, specific growth rate, and mortality were determined as follows. Shortage in world production of fish meal. The conventional protein feed source coupled with increased requirement for fish meal and feeds for livestock and poultry is likely to reduce the dependence on fish meal as a single protein source in aqua feeds. Throughout the world, the efficiency of various alternative protein sources as partial or complete dietary replacement for fish meal has been evaluated in fish diets. And on the other hand, there's little or no work in alternative protein source for fish feed in developing countries such as Nigeria. The West African sub-region and several developing countries continue to rely on imported fish meal. Nigeria has recently started a feed mill which produces some feed for livestock, but the lack of an extruder means by cannot produce feed that can float in the water, and most farmers depend largely on imported feeds. The use of leaf meal as a possible fish meal substitute to reduce the cost of fish feed is receiving increasing attention by fish nutritionists around the world. It is, however, important that the selected protein sources do not conflict with human food security interests. The use of lacuna leaves do not conflict with human food security issue, and this study has demonstrated that the leaves have the potential to partly replace fish meal and considerably reduce expenditure on fish meal without compromising growth performance of the African catfish. When alternative food sources such as plant protein are used in fish diets, one of the common problems encountered is the acceptability of the feed by fish, and this frequently relates the palatability of the diet. In the present investigation, all the experimental diets were accepted by Claris Ganapinus juvenalis, indicating that the level of incorporation of lacunia leaf meal did not affect the palatability of the diet. These might be attributed to the processing techniques, which involve soaking and drying techniques that might have reduced the anti-nutrient in leucaena leaf meal, have reduced the anti-nutrient, thereby increasing its palatability in Claris garipinus. Observations corroborates the works of farmers. These workers reported that reduction in anti-nutrient by different processing techniques result in better palatability and growth in fish. Possibly due to destruction of the mimosine content by the processing technique, the potential of a feedstuff such as leaf meal in fish diets can be evaluated mainly on the basis of its proximate chemical composition, particularly the crude protein content. The proximate composition of the Kenya leaf meal and the present investigation revealed that the crude protein content was 23.54%. This value was higher than the value reported by some earlier researchers. The difference might be attributed to different environmental conditions such as soil types, provenance, harvesting time, and processing methods. Although the nutritional quality of the Kenya leaf meal, as determined by Claris Garipino's body weight gain, specific growth rate, and feed conservation ratio, was higher in fish feed on diet. Differences were observed in other experimental diets. Available information in tilapia revealed that leucophila leaf meal in the diet inclusion did not affect growth. However, at high level of inclusion affected in present investigation. The results of weekly length increase showed that Claris garapinus fingerlings fed on 20% inclusion of ripe plantain peels had the highest weekly mean weight, which might be as a result of high protein content in the feed. Surprisingly, this increase in length as a result of plantain peel inclusion did not increase sequentially as those fed with 100% ripe plantain inclusion had a lower length increase than the control. However, the differences in the weekly length increase of Grasses garipinus fingerlings feed on different percentage inclusion of ripe plantain peel for 6 weeks were significantly seen. As a result of the weekly mean weight increase of the fish table, it can be observed that both the weekly mean length and the weekly mean weight of the fish follow the same pattern, with those fed on 20% ripe plantain peel meal inclusion having the highest weekly mean well all through the experiment. This is in line with who stated that the weight gain and specific grade rates of the fish feed plantain peel diets were superior to the control group. Inclusion, which was not significantly different from group of fish feed the control diet, from results of percentage weight gain, you can observe that Gyrus garapinis fingerlings fed on 20% ripe plantain peel inclusion had the highest mean percentage weight gain, with those fed with 10% ripe plantain peel inclusion having the least. The results of the specific growth rate shows that this is general increase in the specific growth rates of Glarius garapinis fingerlings as the percentage inclusion of ripe plantain peel will increase, and these was significant. Similar observations recorded when cassava peel and leaves yam peel meal were fed to rabbits, respectively, as the ingredient with findings. Starch is an energy source for livestock, including aquatic animals. This compound is a combination of amylose and amylopectin. It is known for its low digestibility, while animals easily hydrolyze the latter. Therefore, the ratio of amylase and amylopectin in starch affect its digestibility. Starch rich in amylopectin can be quickly digested and decrease glycemia. Studies reveal that European sea has demonstrated higher digestibility of waxy maize starch. Borehole water is the source of water pumped into the tank by electrical pump and piped into experimental tanks. 360 juveniles are sometimes obtained from different fish hatcheries. Water storage tank where they are allowed to acclimate to the new environmental condition for about 2 weeks. The differences in nutritional level of three diets could be due to the difference in components of the three diets. This corroborated with the findings of and who both purported that the nutritional constituent of fish meal can vary depending on the parts being processed. The indices of growth examined in the study revealed that weight gain growth rates and specific growth rates varied between diets. Finding observed is in line with who studied their report that feed standard is a matter of how efficient an animal's nutrient requirement is met by that feed. Growth response for fish observed in this study for a period of 22 weeks is an indicator of the completeness of the three experimental diet in terms of nutrient required by fish as reflected in the proximate levels of the three experimental feed. Implication of these findings reflect that fish feed coupons feed grew faster than fish feed shrimp-based diet, while fish feeds chicken of offal-based diet had the slowest growth. This can be attributed to the component which gives an odor of fish to coupons feed and its floatable nature. These findings agreed with the findings of who in their report stated that business feeds like coupons, vital multified, and usually stronger odor that is fishly in nature. Going by Coupons manufacturer level, the constituent micronutrients differ from ingredients used in formulating sheep-based diets and chicken offal bells, although some ingredients and additives were almost the same. Also reported that Garapinos, like most catfish feed, moves in the olfactory senses. This could be responsible for coupons fed being more inviting than died and sea. However, the three feeds were consumed by fish feed a bet at different rates. The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria (ARCN) coordinates the activities of research institutes and is responsible for supervision, regulation, coordination of research activities and programs of higher institutions in Nigeria. And Professor Hamidu Shaributu, since assumption as Executive Secretary of ARCN in April 2020, has solidified the transformation of agriculture in Nigeria through strategic and meaningful execution of research findings for improvement of the agricultural sector.
For grains, we have the parabolic solar dryers. These are specialized solar dryers used for drying agricultural produce such as whole grains, yam and cassava chips, fruits and vegetables more efficiently. It is made of a special material that concentrates the rays of the sun within the enclosure while eliminating harmful ultraviolet radiation. Products dried are free from contaminants and are hygienic.
The parabolic shaped solar dryer is a need-based technology because virtually when we travel all over the country, you will see by the roadside, you see people drying all sorts of agricultural produce. Some spread their own on bare ground, and by the time the vehicles are moving, the raised dust, the dust stay on the products. The reptiles will come, they will eat whatever they can eat, drop their feces and their urine on it, and the owner comes in the evening to pack everything together and still eat that product. And the product has been contaminated, and we feel this is not right, and it is part of our mandate to make sure that we set it right, and that was what led to this, so that we can solve this problem at the grassroots level. Instead of drying by the roadside, drying on just bare ground in their villages, when they have this as a drying center, everybody in the community can bring their product there, spread on the tray, and they get it dry under hygienic condition that is covered. And the dryer also have another property to screen the ultraviolet ray of the sun, which is also can cause hazard to human health.
Since then, Professor Shaributu has operated as visionary captain by restoring the council's glory with the first ever agricultural television and radio station in Nigeria, with well-equipped studios parading state-of-the-art equipment.
The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria also has a brand new electronic library to further promote research and visualizations of deep thoughts on agricultural development in Nigeria.
The museum, located in the Senator Abdullahi Adamu Center, is an agricultural museum saddled with the responsibility of keeping records of agricultural findings, discoveries, researches for continuity and history purposes.
The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria is wearing a new look under the stewardship of Professor Garba Hamidu Shaributu, who says, "Alone, I am nothing, but together, I am something." ARCN,
promoting agriculture.
The result of this episode of the program Aqua Farming shows that the average weight of the fish at harvest in the 18-pond system was 420 grams, which was better than the reported in the cage and concrete pond system, which were 250.6 grams and 350.8 grams. Hence, the 18-pond system is a more viable aquaculture production system with a high return on investment and a lower cost of production. The potential of Otanere River are grossly unexploited. Therefore, diversifying the resources of the river through cage and 18-pond in fish farming will make for the bridge gap in the improvement and accelerate the fish production in the river. It is therefore recommended that the 18-pond and cage system be promoted and practiced in riverine communities in Nigeria, especially where there is a vast stretch of rivers seen in the documentary. Many thanks for staying with us on the program Aqua Farming, where we've been talking about a comparative analysis of African catfish. My name remains Joshua Ishaya on behalf of the crew members who made it possible. Ahmed on the camera, Buba as well on the MCR, and of course Bilkisu, who doubles as the teleprompter and also the editor of the program. Many thanks for staying through. Bye for now.